Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us and thanks for being part of our community. My name is Jason Cohen and I'll be your host for today. A few reminders before we start. If you have issues viewing the stream at any time during the presentation and are using the web browser version of Teams, please refresh your browser. If you are using the desktop app of Teams, please exit and rejoin. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and will be shared publicly. We will post the recordings on our community at aka.ms/securitywebinars. Closed captions in several languages are available during the live broadcast. You can enable them by clicking on the CC button located at the lower right corner of your screen. Feel free to ask questions at any time by typing them in the live event Q&A window by clicking on the Ask a Question button. Be aware that any questions you post will be publicly visible. However, if you prefer, you can post your question anonymously by checking the box right below where you enter it. We often get many questions on these webinars, and we will do our best to respond to all of them in real time. In the event if the answer was not provided, or if you may have additional questions post this event, please don't hesitate to raise them on our Azure Security Center forum at aka.ms/ASC community, and on our Microsoft Defender for Endpoint forum at aka.ms/MDE community. We love to hear your feedback on how we can improve these webinars. You can do so at aka.ms/securitywebinar-feedback. And by the way, all the links that I'm announcing have been already shared with you on the chat or the live event Q&A window. I would also like to invite you to join our public community by visiting aka.ms/securitycommunity. That's the best way to ensure you don't miss any future webinars or major announcements. On our community, you can speak directly to our engineering teams that create our security products. You'll be able to influence our product designs and get early access to changes by doing things like participating in private previews at aka.ms/PRSecCom, request features, give feedback, review our product roadmaps, register for events, or join webinars like this. We believe that the best way to improve our products is by removing any barriers between you and the people that create them. So we hope you'll join us. In today's session, Stanislav, Belov, and Yong, Rhee will take us through Better Together, Azure Security Center, and Defender for Endpoint. Stanislav is a senior program manager with the Azure Security Center team, while Yong is a senior program manager with the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint team. And without further ado, I'll turn it over to them. Stanislav, Yong, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jason. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Today, we're going to discuss how Azure Security Center and Microsoft Defender for Endpoint can work together to help us and you protect your service regardless where they are, in Azure, AWS, other clouds, and even on-prem from various cyber threats. So here's our agenda. So we're going to start out with giving you some introduction to Azure Security Center and Azure Defender for Servers specifically. So after that, Yong will talk about Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. And after that, we will discuss how this integration can be configured, what are the requirements, prerequisites, and what kind of benefits you will get once you have this integration in place. And of course, we'll show you some cool demos. And in the end, if we have some time still, so we'll open the floor for the question and answers. All right, let's get started. Azure Security Center is a unified infrastructure security management system that helps improve the security posture of your IT environment and provides advanced threat protection across your hybrid workloads in the cloud, as well as on premises. Azure Security Center covers two pillars of cloud security. First one is Cloud Security Posture Management, or CSPM for short, and it's available for all Azure users. This free experience includes features like Secure Score, detection of security misconfiguration in your Azure machines, and other resources, assets inventory, regulatory compliance, and more. The second pillar is Azure Security Center's integrated Cloud Workload Protection Platform, or CWPP for short, now known as Azure Defender, which brings advanced intelligent protection of your Azure and hybrid resources. Enabling Azure Defender adds a range of additional security features, as we will see in a second. Security Center provides a competitive cloud-native protection platform for Windows, and Linux servers, as well as containers, databases, serverless workloads, IoT, and so on, that have been widely adopted across Azure and hybrid customers. Security Center benefits from Microsoft Intelligent Security Graph. It's kind of a system we have in the backend, which uses like trillions of signals from different Microsoft services and systems around the globe to identify new and evolving threats. Like I already mentioned, in addition to defending your Azure environment, you can add Azure Defender capabilities to a hybrid cloud environment, like resources running in AWS and GCP, for instance. And for that, we leverage Azure Arc service. And you will get customized threat intelligence and prioritized alerts according to your specific environment. Now let's talk specifically about Azure Defender for Servers. Azure Defender for Servers adds threat detection and advanced defenses for your Windows and Linux machines. These threat detection and protection capabilities include these following features. Very often we hear from our customers questions like, we can purchase EDR solution, endpoint detection response solution, like X or Y or even MD. We can just purchase it separately. Why do we need to pay extra for Azure Defender for Servers? And the answer I can give you for this question is, while EDR is maybe enough to protect the workstations, right? For your servers, which in most cases are more valuable for your organization than just in a regular workstation, you probably want to have a more comprehensive protection. And Azure Defender for Servers offers a multi-layered defense for critical assets like your servers in this case. Let's briefly review these features. Some of those controls, they're cloud native, meaning that they only exist for Azure virtual machines, like just-in-time access control or adaptive network hardening. Threat actors actively look for accessible machines with open management ports like RDP or SSH. And just-in-time VM access feature locks down the inbound traffic to your Azure VMs, reducing exposure to attacks while providing easy access to connect to those VMs when needed for your administrators. Adaptive network hardening provides recommendation for even further hardening of your network security rules. We use machine learning in the backend that analyzes the actual traffic, your known trusted configuration. Also leverage like threat intelligence and other indicators of compromise, and then provide recommendation to allow traffic only from specific IP ports. So the next is Qualys Vulnerability Assessment Scanner. Qualys is, I would say, it's probably the leading tool for real-time identification of vulnerabilities in Azure environment and in hybrid environment. And we partnered with Qualys to provide vulnerability assessment within Azure Security Center. You don't need a separate Qualys license, or you don't even need a Qualys account at all. So everything is handled seamlessly inside Security Center. Another feature is file integrity monitoring, also known as change monitoring. It examines files and registries of the operating system, applications, for changes that might indicate an ongoing attack. A comparison method is used to determine if the current state of the file is different from the last scan of the file. You can leverage this comparison to determine if the valid or suspicious modification have been made to your files. once you've enabled and configured adaptive application control, you will get security alerts if any application runs other than the ones you have defined as safe. So that's very powerful tool, so to kind of make sure that only trusted applications can run on your servers. All right, to detect real threats, Security Center collects, analyzes, and integrates log data from your Azure resources and the underlying network. It also works with connected partner solutions like firewall or endpoint protection. For instance, Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, but we also can work with others providers. Security Center analyzes this information, often correlating this information from multiple sources to identify threats. Security Center employs advanced threat analytics, which goes far beyond just signature-based detections. This security analytics include the threat intelligence provided by Intelligent Security Graph, behavioral analytics, anomaly detections, and so on. And as you can see on this screen, I specifically highlighted that Microsoft Defender for Endpoint license is included in Azure Defender for servers. And together, these two solutions, they provide comprehensive endpoint detection and response capabilities. And now I will let Yong give us some additional information on Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, what it can do, and what security capability it provides. Yong?
All right, thanks, Stan. These 6 pillars define the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, which we'll talk more about in the next slides. The first one on our list is the attack surface reduction, which is, think of as an umbrella for different technologies that could help prevent attacks. One of them is the attack surface reduction rules, which will go ahead and provide you with the protection against Office, macros, child processes that are spawned, different scripts that could be running on your environment, and other browser-related attacks. Another set of technologies under ASR is the network protection, which protects your applications or third-party browsers based on the IP address or URL reputation. We also have web content filtering underneath it in order to help your end users from going to websites that might be detrimental to your environment, and hardening through app control, which will allow or block applications that only you would allow to run on the environment. In addition, on the client side, we have things like control folder and device control that's available in Windows clients and Mac OSs. Next. And for the next generation protection, we have behavior monitoring, heuristics, and in-depth threat research that is able to utilize the Microsoft Cloud, which includes machine learning and big data analysis. If you haven't visited and looked at our next generation protection, what you'll notice is that there are several industry comparison tests, such from AV Tests and SC Labs, where we have done really well, even compared to established players in the field. So if you haven't visited us in the last 24, 36 months, please take a look and see all the great work that has been done to help protect and prevent in your environment. Next. And we have, obviously all these pre-breach technologies in place, but nowadays you have to assume that there is a breach, right? With that said, we have the endpoint detection response, which will provide you with the capabilities of finding, where the bad guys are hiding. So this gives you that visibility that you may not have had in the past. And, we're able to point out, regular admin tools that are being used for malicious intent. So this, gives you, within, minutes, hours, that there's something that's happening in your environment that you may not have had that visibility in the past. It would take days, months, maybe years, right, to get to the bottom of that something was happening in your environment, that there was an intrusion. This will go ahead and expose that, fairly quickly. So it's definitely one of those security tool sets that you want to have in your arsenal. Next. Automated investigation and remediation. So this is where, obviously all the, SOCs are staffed, and as you all probably know, there is a lack of, folks available, right? So a lot of times SOCs are understaffed, and this is where the automated investigation and remediation comes into play to help the SOC look at the items that are, trivial, in order to go through the inspection and process that an analyst would go ahead and go through, and help them, go through a lot of the alerts that may take a good amount of time for them to go through. So it helps the SOC be more efficient, and also it helps reduce the hours that they have to look into an alert that might be something that could be a low issue, or could be like a high problem that where all hands on deck needs to be in play, right? So automated investigation and remediation is definitely an arsenal that you want to have in your cybersecurity tool set. Let's go ahead and go next. Thanks. Threat vulnerability management. So obviously, Stas went ahead and went through the TVM information that's available as a part of the Azure Defender. But then, not only will you have your Windows servers and Linux servers, but this will give you that visibility on your Windows clients and Mac OS clients regarding the different patches that they may be missing, the different attacks that have occurred on your environment that could have been prevented if the patches were in place. So this also gives you CIS benchmark, information on how you're doing compared to this established CIS benchmarks, and it's able to provide you with different information about your exposure score. So lower your exposure score, the better off you are. And then from a configuration perspective, from an OS, network, accounts, security controls, and application layer, the higher the score, the better it is in your environment. And the other thing is that a lot of times, our customers go, how are we doing compared to our peers in the industry? This will show you that information on how you're doing if you're in finance, security, oil and gas, power, retail, and other industries that your company might be in. So this it gives you that real world comparison, compared to your peers. Let's go to the next one. Microsoft Threat Experts. Now, this is one of those things that you don't want to go without. First of all, we have information regarding target attack notifications. So this is where, if you do have, a target attack, let's say that you're a government entity, or even in the, commercial industry where there are target attacks, based on human operated ransomware, the 10 notifications are big because, it gives you a heads up of something really bad that's happening. So that you want to make sure that you have this little guy turned on in your MD portal. The other aspects of it is experts on demand, which you want to go ahead and subscribe to it, which gives you the ability to contact a Microsoft SOC personnel to verify if something is a true positive or a false positive, or get more details of the type of attack that is occurring in your environment. So think of it as a dial 911 to go ahead and get support that your SOC analyst could use. So Microsoft Threat Experts, again, is something that I would highly recommend to enable. All right. Let's go ahead and go to the next.
All right, thank you, Yong. That was really insightful. So definitely was just in a high level, right, introduction to these two products. So we do have very comprehensive documentation on both. All right, now let's talk about the integration, how these two products can work together, what benefits are and what the requirements are. So first of all, once you've configured the integration in Azure Security Center, you will get automatic onboarding of all the virtual machines or even on-prem servers that they've been onboarded to EC. The EC will automatically onboard them to Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. The second part is that you will get like a single pane of glass, meaning that so when Defender for Endpoint detects a threat, it triggers an alert, and that alert will show up in Azure Security Center. And from Security Center, you'll be able to pivot to Microsoft Defender for Endpoint console and perform a detailed investigation to kind of uncover the scope of the attack. All right, so as far as the requirements, so first of all, you need Azure Defender for Servers plan enabled at the subscription as well as the workspace level. And I will show you that in upcoming demo. So right now we support Azure virtual machines running Windows and Linux. I don't know if you've seen already or heard the announcement that recently we announced the availability of this integration for Linux machines. We also support Azure Arc connected machines, meaning that virtual machines running or even physical servers running in your data center or other clouds connected to Azure via a service called Azure Arc. And we also support Windows and Linux machines in this case. As far as the supported versions, we support all supported Windows, of course, OSs. As far as the Linux, you can see the list of currently supported Linux distros on my screen. Here's a place where you need to go in Security Center console to enable this integration. So worth mentioning that this integration is actually enabled by default. And recently, so once we enabled this integration for Linux machines, we understood that some customers, some mature customers, which have been using this integration for quite a while for Linux or for Windows machines, they might not be ready right away to use this integration for Linux machines. That's why we opted to providing you this button so that you can go ahead and enable this integration for Linux machines once you're ready. For all new subscriptions created, I would say, right after July this year, you will not be able to see this button. For those subscriptions for those subscriptions, this integration is on by default for both Linux and Windows. And also for your existing subscriptions, if you don't see this button, meaning that someone already enabled this integration for Linux. For large organizations that would prefer using some automated way, we do have APIs that control this integration. So I mean that you can enable, disable it at scale. So I have a link here. We do have set and get and also list APIs available for that matter. And now enough boring slides. Let's take a look how this looks and feel in the portal. So all right, let's start with this integration. So what do we need to do to enable integration between Azure Security Center and Microsoft Defender for Endpoint? First, you need to make sure that you have enabled Azure Defender in general, and also you've enabled Azure Defender for servers specifically at the subscription level. We do have, as you can see here, like a dozen of different Azure Defender plans, but for this purpose, we focus on Azure Defender for servers. You need to make sure that it's on. The second part is, as you probably know, we're using MMA agent to collect various security logs from the machines. And it can be either auto-provisioned or manually provisioned. You can use Azure Policy to deploy this extension. But regardless of the way of deployment, you also need to make sure that Azure Defender is also enabled at the workspace level. We're here. Azure Defender for servers should be enabled at the workspace level too. This will create required solution or tables to store the appropriate data. Right. The next thing is you need to make sure that the integration between MDE and Security Center is enabled here. So this checkbox should be enabled. And that's all you need to do. After that, all the machines you create in this subscription will be automatically onboarded to Azure Security Center, as well as on-prem machines connected via Azure Arc. So for virtual machines or even physical servers that you want to onboard to Security Center and take advantage of this MDE integration, you need to onboard them to Azure Arc first. And after that, Azure Security Center will detect those new resources, and depending on the version, if it's Windows Server 2019 or Linux, they will automatically be onboarded to MDE right away. For OSs, for Windows servers prior to Windows Server 2019, 16 and older, you will also have to deploy the agent, the MMA agent. And the MMA agent will onboard those machines to MDE. The reason for that is because MDE is part of the operating system only starting in 2019. For the down-level OSs, we need MMA to perform all this, data collection and so on. All right. Next, that's as far as the onboarding process. Now let's talk about the alerts. So for this demo, so what we did, and just to save us some time. So yesterday we executed a couple of malware samples on these two virtual machines. One was, the Mimikatz, so it's a well-known credential extraction tool used by the pen testers as well as the attackers It allows them to extract cache credentials from Windows servers. And the second one, we just executed some also pretty old but known ransomware malware known as React. All right, let's take a look at this. So, like for instance, let's focus on this alert. Password hash is dumped from OSS memory. So this sounds nasty. So, and if we click at this, view full details of this alert, right away you can see this portion here. So, which tells us that this action, this execution of Mimikatz was detected by MDE, Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, which triggered the alert, and this alert was also sent to Azure Security Center. And we have this link over here, which can the security analyst can use to go to Microsoft 365 Defender portal to do some further investigation about what happened. And I want to ask Yong to walk us through this experience that the security analyst will take to investigate what happened. Yong?
All right. Thanks, Dan.
Just let me give you the control. Yeah.
Awesome. So we're going to go ahead and click on this Investigate in M365 Defender portal, which will open the MDE portal. And we're going to get to the alerts. In the alerts, you're going to be able to see information about the alert that showed up, and then the machine name and the risk level that the machine is in, the account or that when that alert occurred, and you're also going to be able to see the alert tree of how that attack went ahead and unfolded in the environment. And we're going to be able to see a little bit more, and I'll walk you through this with, let me start out with this pane on the right side. So you're going to be able to see this high-level overview where you could go into the machine timeline, link to another incident, assign it to yourself as a SOC analyst. And then if you click on the ellipses here, you're going to be able to see if it was a false positive, you could create an alert suppression. And then if you were subscribed to the threat experts, you could consult a threat expert regarding this particular attack. The other information that you'll see at your fingertips is the this alert is going to be a part of the of an incident. So there might be multiple alerts that are happening regarding that particular incident. So you're going to be able to see that by clicking here. We'll get to that in a little bit. The detection source is EDR, so the endpoint detection response. The detection technology is behavioral detection status is detected. And the category, so this is the nice part. Not only do we show you the MITRE attack framework, but we also show you the MITRE attack sub framework that was used in this attack vector when it was first noticed and when it was the last activity on this environment. And then a bit of the description of what's happening and the recommendations on what your SOC team should go ahead and be doing is nicely listed here. And then if an automated investigation had run, it would have gone through here. The impacted system, the user count, right? And then like things like related evidences. So there was a process, and then you could add comments to, and notes of this particular attack. Now, what you'll see is that this right pane will change anytime you click on and this little blue bar comes up. So now you're going to be able to see that, hey, this is a machine in a work group. It's a server 2019 64-bit. in the health state, meaning, we're able to communicate to it, so it's active. There is no data sensitivity. The IP address is this, and you can see some additional IP addresses. So this is the IPv6 address, the onboarding status, and then the alerts that are associated with this alert. And then if MDI was enabled, Microsoft Defender for Identity, we would see additional information. And you can see that this end user is also a local administrator on that server. And then if we click on the user, we're going to be able to see the SID for that user, how many alerts are associated with that server or that user, and then first seen and the last time that this user was seen, and the logon times that they have. Now, if we go down to the alert tree, you're going to be able to see information regarding, if we go ahead and expand here, you're going to be able to see the hash value of it, so that you could go ahead and take a look. But not only that, right? So you get the hash value, you're going to be able to click on the virus total information, which is going to, go ahead and look for that file hash, and it's going to show you like, your AV product, if it detects it or not. So in this case, Microsoft Defender antivirus or next-gen protection detected a mimikatz.d, as you can see here. If I go back to it, it's going to show you if, so that mimikatz is showing as high, because it's definitely, if you start seeing your credentials being dumped, you got a big problem, right? More than likely, they're trying to move laterally to get to your domain controller and own your environment. So this gives you that nice view at your fingertips. And again, because when it selects this, the blue bar goes ahead, it lights up, and we will see, the not only SHA-1 that's shown here on the high overview, but the SHA-256 and D5, the size of that, executable. If it was signed, you can see that this Mimikatz tool has been signed with this issuer right here, and it is a PE, right? So, and the other nice thing is that you're going to be able to see how many, Mimikatz were observed worldwide, when it was first seen, when it was last seen. And the other thing is that it's going to give you that visibility within your own org, right, to see how many, of these were seen in your environment, when it was first seen, last seen. So that it gives you an idea of when that attack started in your own environment. Now, I'm going to go ahead and go back to and go ahead and refresh this page, so we could go back to the original pane over here. And as a part of this alert, we have these incidents. So I'm going to go ahead and click on it. So the incident page is going to come up. Now, the nice thing about the incident page is that you could quickly take a look at the alerts that are associated with this particular attack in the environment, but also you're going to be able to, graphically view the, systems that are impacted. So we can see here that we got, 2 systems where the Mimikatz executable and the drivers were detected, right? And the beautiful thing about this is that it doesn't matter where your server is. We're able to see that this is an on-prem server, so defined by OP, and then this is one that's hosted in Azure IaaS. So it doesn't matter where your server is. It could be, on-prem, could be in Azure, could be in AWS, it could be in other cloud providers. You would see that end-to-end, overview of what's happening from this attack perspective, all in one pane. So if we click on the alerts, you'll see that we got Mimikatz alerts from 2 devices, and you're able to see that we got that Azure system, and then the on-prem server, and then so that was on the 25th, right? So, And then, we had tested that before on the 23rd, but we also have malicious credential theft to execution detected here. So what I could do is I could go ahead and click on it, and it's going to take me to this particular alert. Again, this was another EDR behavioral monitor that was detected, and you can see that there's this DLL and this driver were loaded after the executable, which makes sense, right? So it gives you a nice overview. And then you could also see there was a command line that was, looks like it was a part of it that ended up being kicked off when Mimikatz was run. So this gives you that nice view. Now, if we go back to our incident, so I'm going to go here to incident, and I'm going to go to the credential access. Okay, and we're going to go to let's see which one here. So if we go back to this one right here, what you'll see is this one was assigned to automation, right? So what that means is that automated investigation was a part of it, and you can see here that there were 18 triggered, triggered by this alert, and was remediated. So if I go to this, the automated investigation, we're going to be able to see that the alert came up, and then we go through and start analyzing over 1,400 files, 78 processes, 221 services, 374 drivers, 7 IP addresses, and 225 persistent methods. So, the automated response goes and looks for all these different things, and it ends up finding 3 evidences on here that went ahead and got remediated. You have the option to automatically remediate these, or where somebody from the SOC could go ahead and improve. So that's the beauty of it. You have full control of the remediation aspects. Obviously, a lot of the ransomware attacks occur in the evenings during the weekend. So when when the SOC is minimally staffed, so having this in auto approval mode over the weekend is, I would say it is a no-brainer, right? Because then it will help go ahead and start, either deleting or quarantining the malicious files that are found in the environment. With that said, Stan, any other things that you would like to comment?
Maybe really quickly on this second alert. So for our second test, we used the ransomware piece, like this one. The experience is going to be the same. So from the security center, from this alert in the security center, you can again pivot to as a defender for endpoint. You probably was wondering how come that Microsoft Defender was able to allow to run to allow this known malware pieces to run. So what we did, we actually excluded a folder from the detection for the sake of this demo. But what is interesting is that even though this ransomware was allowed to run, so we were able to execute this piece of malware, MDE, Defender for Endpoint, was able to prevent the harm to this system. The actual execution of the crypt operations and encryption of the files was prevented by MDE. And Yong, if you just really quickly tell us, because we're kind of running already out of time, so really quickly,
yep.
Tell us what happened, right. what this automated remediation right. Did would be great.
Absolutely. So as Stan pointed out, it's very common to have very lax exclusions in enterprise environments, right? Which then allows malware that is named the same because a whole folder is excluded. So in this case, this is what that this example shows. Now, the nice thing about this is with the automated investigation is that even if AV doesn't prevent the EDR piece of it, the automated investigation, auto IR for short, could go ahead and prevent these type of attacks. So I'm going to go back to the automated investigation, and you can see here that it got triggered, right? The EDR got triggered. We ended up seeing an alert regarding ransomware that was prevented. It was on one device, so it's this device right here. And you can see that the remediation level is set to fully automated, which again, we highly encourage all enterprises to enable that as the default setting. And then if you click on the evidence, we're going to be able to see that there were, these different files that were part of that ransomware attack, Rhee, which, I think it's been on the news quite a bit. So, all of you should be very familiar with it. And now the beautiful thing about this, again, is that not only goes ahead and remediates that malware, right? But it will go ahead and go through the files on the system. It will do a complete scan, so it doesn't matter where that file's sitting, even if that folder is excluded. We'll go ahead and take a look at it so that it gives the SOC with the visibility that just AV would not provide today. And it's going to go through the different processes that are loaded in memory, right? And then the services that are running on the boxes. So, obviously, a lot of these malware also registers themselves as services. And then there are some few drivers that have stolen certificates from reputable vendors that end up getting loaded. So we end up looking for those. And then obviously the C2 channels, right? The command control channels that might be where this, a malware might be communicating. We're going to be looking for those. And then all these different persistent methods that malware end up evading, security tools, but not only security tools, but the SOC analysts. So hopefully that's useful. And again, this is one of the tool sets that you want to have on your arsenal to prevent malware in your environment.
All right, thank you, my friends. All right, so a couple of closing thoughts. First one is if you already have servers onboarded directly to MDE and you want to move to Azure Defender for servers and start using those additional security capabilities provided by this plan, like just-in-time access, vulnerability assessment, application control, and so on. Until recently, you would have to go through painful onboarding process, meaning that you had to offboard those servers from MDE, onboard them to Security Center, and Security Center will onboard your machines to MDE again. So we changed this behavior, simplified this process. Now that once you onboarded your previously onboarded to MDE servers to Security Center will detect that those machines already have MDE, right? And it will just enable this integration in the backend. So we fixed this pain point. And the last thought is if you use Azure Sentinel as your SIEM solution. By integrating the Azure Security Center and Microsoft Defender for Endpoint with Azure Sentinel, you will have this, single pane of glass. And as you probably know, that there are many other connectors available. So to provide you, a true single pane of glass across all your workloads, across all different security, not all, maybe many different security solutions in one place, so that you can definitely have some correlated, comprehensive view on what's happening. And just just an example, as you can see here, we have the same an incident created in Sentinel, which also talks about the same attack, which is Mimikatz for that matter. With that, I think we have a couple of minutes left for Q&A. Jason?
Yeah, we do have a few questions. The first one is, how does Defender for Endpoint ensure that only allowed processes are allowed to make changes to files in protected folders like AAC?
Oh, well, it's Defender for Endpoints.
So, Jason, what can you repeat that?
Do you want me to repeat it?
Yeah.
It's a little confusing. I think we can address this question maybe later offline. So I believe we're going to publish this all the questions after the webinar. So we'll definitely make sure that this question get answered.
Okay.
But we need I believe some clarification.
Sure. Okay, next question is, how do I create file folder exclusions for my servers when using Azure Defender for servers in a central place? Or do I need to log into each server and configure exclusions in Windows Defender?
Yong?
Yeah, so for the AD exclusions, there's the Microsoft anti-malware that you could add as a template for your VMs. So your Azure like IS workload and exclude that way. We'll go ahead and paste the link that has the instructions on it on the Q&A that we'll be publishing, so that you could go ahead and take a look at the best practice there.
Great.
And I believe for the on-prem machines, you can leverage group policies or Intune to configure those, because those are technically registry keys, right?
Right. So anything like group policy, config manager with tenant attach, PowerShell, any kind of scripting. Yeah. So there's different ways from an on-prem perspective.
Great. Thank you. And our next one is, how do you provision the MMA for ARC 2016 Windows servers at scale?
Unfortunately, right now we don't have auto provisioning for ARC connected machines. This is something we're actively working on, and it should be available soon. But right now it's either manual or you can leverage Azure policies.
Great. Next one is, how can we integrate Defender and ServiceNow with API only?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we do have a good amount of APIs that are available, and actually, if you go to our tech community for Defender, Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, we do have a blog post regarding ServiceNow integration. So please take a look at that. We'll also post it on the Q&A here for this session. Thanks.
Great. The next one is it possible to configure the MDE integration using Azure policy?
But Stan?
Yeah, so I'm just thinking. So as I mentioned in the slides, so there are APIs available. So anything that can leverage post get methods can enable or configure this integration.
Okay. The next one is Any plans for Defender for Windows images scanning in ACR?
It's coming. It's in our roadmap.
Okay. And then we have, what's the difference between vulnerability management provided by MDE and ASC?
It's it's a very controversial topic, actually. So right now, as I mentioned, we partnered with Qualys and for vulnerability assessment for machines onboarded to Security Center. So meaning that right now the only option is to leverage Qualys. We do have some plans to introduce MDE's TVM as an option for vulnerability assessment of your Azure and Arc machines. So this is also in our roadmap, and just stay tuned.
Great.
But the difference is it's just the pretty much the same information provided by two different providers, Qualys and us, and Microsoft.
Great. 3 more. What can I do to reduce the frequency of telemetry?
I don't think that is possible, and I would like to hear why you would like to because we're talking about security product, and being able to get visibility and react as soon as something bad happened is paramount.
Great. And 2 more. How can I access the logs that lead to the attacker?
Can you please repeat, Jason?
How can I access the logs that lead to the attacker?
That second part is a little bit confusing about the something pointing to the the logs available either in information about the ongoing attack. It is available either in Azure Resource Graph from the I'm talking about from the Azure Security perspective. It's available in Azure Resource Graph or in these Azure Log Analytic workspace you have configured to store the logs. And some of the alerts, and again, depending on the nature of the attack, some alerts would include the IP addresses of the potential attacker. So that's the only kind of information that actually tell you where this attack is going from. And in many cases, Azure Security Center will provide this information within the alert details.
Got it.
But it's going to be like IP address and probably country this kind of IP address is associated with.
Great. Last one. Do we have an in-depth description of how we perform our threat and vulnerability analysis? I'm looking to find out how we decide the real version of a software. Are we checking maybe even some of the DLLs to confirm versioning?
The way we do the analysis is our proprietary information. So we don't want the bad guys to know how we do our detection, and of course we don't publish our machine learning models or our AI algorithms publicly.
Great. Well, I think that's it. Thank you, Stanislav and Yong, for being our guests today and for an excellent presentation. And thank you to the rest of the team who helped answer questions. At the same time, I would like to remind the listeners that the best way to ensure you don't miss any future webinars or major announcements is to visit our landing page at aka.ms/securitycommunity. And while there, you'll find easy ways to navigate and find the resources and learning content relevant to our security products and their communities. A good start would be browsing our bite-sized product videos, ninja trainings, recordings of past webinars, GitHub communities, and more. We love to hear your feedback on how we can improve these webinars. Please take a minute submitting your webinar feedback at aka.ms/securitywebinar-feedback. Thank you and see you next time. Goodbye.
Thanks, everyone.